The sound of the pool ball disappearing into the corner pocket was followed by a silence so complete that I could hear my own heartbeat. Across the green felt, Emma froze with her cue still resting between her fingers. She looked at me, then at the ball, and finally gave me the smallest nervous smile. I had expected teasing. I had expected laughter. I had even expected to lose. What I had not expected was for one careless challenge after work to become the moment that changed both of our lives. If you enjoy stories about unexpected connections, second chances, kindness, and the moments that remind us that love can appear when we least expect it, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who loves emotional stories, leave a comment, and subscribe to Kindness Studio for more stories about second chances. My name is Daniel, and at 32, I had become very good at pretending that everything was fine. At work, I was the quiet guy who always arrived early, finished his assignments, helped other people when deadlines became difficult, and left without making much noise. Nobody at the office knew that 3 months earlier, my engagement had ended. Nobody knew that the apartment I came home to every night still contained photographs I couldn't bring myself to take down. And nobody knew that I had started believing that maybe some people simply weren't meant to get another chance at happiness. Emma knew more than most people, though. She worked across from me in the marketing department. She was 29, confident without being arrogant, funny without trying too hard, and somehow capable of making even the worst Monday feel slightly less miserable. She had noticed the change in me long before anyone else did. Sometimes she would leave a cup of coffee on my desk without saying anything. Other times she would send me a ridiculous meme during a stressful meeting just to make me smile. I always thanked her, but I never told her how much those tiny gestures mattered. One Thursday evening, most of the office had emptied when Emma walked past my desk and noticed me staring at my computer screen without actually reading anything. She leaned against the edge of my desk and asked why I looked like someone had just canceled Christmas. I laughed for the first time that day. She told me there was a pool hall 2 blocks away and that I looked like I desperately needed to lose at something that didn't involve spreadsheets. I followed her because, honestly, I didn't want to go home. The pool hall was warm, bright, and alive with the sound of breaking balls and distant laughter. For the first hour, we played casually. Emma was surprisingly good, while I was terrible enough to become entertaining. She celebrated every lucky shot like she had just won a championship, and slowly, without realizing it, I stopped thinking about my apartment, my broken engagement, and the empty space beside me. Then she leaned over the table, studied the final ball, and challenged me to a bet. She said that if I could sink the shot she pointed toward, I would earn bragging rights. Then, with a mischievous smile, she changed the rules and said that if she sank it instead, I owed her a kiss. I laughed because I assumed she was joking. She looked at me for a second longer than necessary and told me she wasn't. My heart started beating differently. She took the shot. The cue ball rolled smoothly across the felt, struck the target ball, and sent it directly toward the corner pocket. For one terrifying second, it looked like it might stop just short. Then it dropped. That was the moment described at the beginning. Emma slowly stood upright, her expression suddenly uncertain. The playful confidence she had carried all evening disappeared. Neither of us moved. I could have laughed it off. I could have reminded her that it was only a joke. Instead, I looked at her and realized something frightening. I wanted to kiss her. Not because of the bet. Because somewhere between the coffee cups, the jokes, the quiet rides home, and the evenings when she made me forget how lonely I had become, I had started falling for her. But before I could move, my phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice sounded shaken. She told me my father had been taken to the hospital after collapsing at home. Suddenly, the pool hall disappeared around me. Emma saw my face change and immediately knew something was wrong. She didn't ask whether I wanted company. She simply grabbed her coat and followed me. At the hospital, everything became fluorescent lights, rushed footsteps, paperwork, and fear. My father was stable, but the doctors wanted to keep him overnight for observation. I sat in a plastic chair beside my mother, staring at the floor, feeling the weight of the past few months crashing down on me all at once. Emma stayed. She brought coffee. She found a vending machine when my mother needed something to eat. She sat quietly beside me when there was nothing to say. At 3 a.m, when I finally admitted that I was tired of pretending I was strong, she told me that I didn't have to pretend around her. Those words broke something open inside me. I told her about my failed engagement. I told her how ashamed I felt that I still missed someone who had chosen to leave. I told her I was afraid that if I allowed myself to love again, I would eventually be abandoned again. Emma listened without interrupting. Then she told me something about herself. Her previous relationship had ended badly too. She had spent years believing she needed to be perfect to keep someone from leaving. Eventually, she realized that the right person wouldn't require her to become someone else just to be loved. We sat there until sunrise. My father recovered enough to go home 2 days later, but something inside me had changed. Emma and I continued working together, but now every glance carried a meaning we couldn't ignore. We were careful because we didn't want to ruin what we had. Yet pretending nothing had happened became harder every day. A week later, we returned to the same pool hall. Emma placed 2 cues on the table and smiled. She told me that she had been thinking about the bet. I smiled back and told her I hadn't forgotten. She said she didn't want me to kiss her because I had lost a game. She wanted me to kiss her only if I genuinely wanted to. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then I stepped closer. I told her that I had spent months thinking my heart was broken beyond repair. I told her that she hadn't magically fixed me, because nobody could do that. What she had done was remind me that being hurt didn't mean I had to stop living. Emma's eyes filled with tears. And when I finally kissed her, there was no cheering, no dramatic music, and no audience. Just 2 people standing beneath ordinary lights in an ordinary pool hall, taking a terrifying chance on something neither of them had expected. Months later, my father's health had improved, the photographs in my apartment had finally been packed away, and Emma had become the person I called whenever life felt overwhelming. We still played pool sometimes. She still won more often than I liked to admit. But every time she sank that corner shot, she smiled at me as if she knew exactly what it had started. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes that broken hearts can heal, and subscribe to Kindness Studio. Sometimes one small moment of kindness can become the beginning of an entirely new life. And before you go, I have one special request. Comment, everyone deserves a second chance at love, if you believe that the right person can enter your life when you least expect it. Because sometimes, a simple game isn't really about winning or losing. Sometimes, it's about taking one more chance when your heart is telling you to give up. And sometimes, the person standing across the table isn't there to challenge you at all. They're there to remind you that your story isn't over yet.